You know how some people just seem to fade into the background, like they're barely there? That was Ryan. I don't even think most people really noticed him, except for the occasional glimpse of him sitting at the back of the class, hunched over, hoodie pulled up, staring at the desk in front of him. He wasn't an outcast, but he wasn't part of the crowd either. He just existed, quietly, like he was trying to blend into the walls. It wasn't until I really started to pay attention that I realized something was wrong. You can only stay in the background for so long before someone notices the little things, the subtle shifts, the changes in behavior. That's when I saw it. It was the bruises on his arms, dark and deep, like someone had grabbed him too hard. They weren't the result of some clumsy fall or an accident. They were deliberate, like someone had held him too tightly, over and over again. It was a fleeting moment, but it hit me like a punch to the gut. I had to know what was going on. There was no way I could just ignore it. So I waited until the last bell rang, when the classroom was nearly empty, and I walked up to him. My heart was racing. I didn't even know what I was going to say, but I had to do something. "Hey, Ryan," I said, trying to sound casual. "You good?" He didn't answer at first, just stared down at his desk, his shoulders hunched like he was trying to disappear into himself. But then he finally looked up, and when his eyes met mine, I saw something in them. Fear. It wasn't just the usual teenage angst or the kind of resentment that kids sometimes carry. It was fear, deep and real. "I'm fine," he mumbled, but his voice was shaky, like he was trying to convince himself more than me. I wasn't convinced. Something wasn't right, and I couldn't just leave it alone. I had to say something. "The bruises," I said gently, my voice barely above a whisper. "Who's hurting you, Ryan?" For a long time, he didn't answer. He just looked at me, like I had spoken a foreign language. Finally, he shook his head, like he couldn't bear to acknowledge the truth. "I'm not," he started, but his voice cracked, and he swallowed hard. I stepped closer, not wanting to push him too much, but feeling like I couldn't back down now. "You don't have to hide it. You can talk to me. I'm here to help." The words felt too simple for the weight of what was going on, but I meant them. If someone's hurting you, I can make it stop. You don't have to deal with it alone. His face softened just for a moment, but then the fear came back, and he pulled his sleeves down over his hands, hiding the marks from view. "You don't get it," he whispered. "You don't know what it's like." I felt my stomach twist. It was worse than I thought. I could tell from his voice that whatever was happening at home was something he couldn't escape, something too big for him to handle alone. "Ryan," I said softly, "who's doing this to you?" That was when he looked up again, his eyes filled with something that wasn't just fear anymore. It was hopelessness. "It's my dad," he said, barely audible. He doesn't stop. He drinks, and when he does, everything changes. It's like I'm nothing to him, just something to hurt." My chest tightened, and for a moment I didn't know what to say. This wasn't just some careless mistake. This was something deep, something that had been going on for far too long. I could see it in the way Ryan held himself, the way he wouldn't meet anyone's gaze. He didn't feel safe anywhere, not even in his own skin. "I can help you, Ryan," I said, my voice stronger now. "You don't have to stay there. There are people I can talk to. We can get you out of there. You can be safe." He looked at me like I was his last hope, like I was the only person who might actually listen. "You promise?" he asked, his voice cracking. "I promise," I said, feeling the weight of my words. The next morning, Ryan wasn't in class. At first I thought maybe he was just skipping. It wasn't unheard of after all. But as the day wore on, something didn't sit right with me. I kept checking my phone, waiting for some kind of message from him. Nothing. When the final bell rang, and I was still left wondering where he had gone, that's when the real worry set in. I started making calls, teachers, other students, anyone who might know where he'd gone. No one had seen him leave. No one had any idea where he was. I called his home, but his father didn't answer. His mother? Too afraid to speak up. It was like Ryan had disappeared. The search for him started almost immediately. The police got involved, questioning everyone, searching the neighborhood, going through his home. But the more they dug, the more confusing it became. Ryan hadn't just run away. He had planned it. But how? Where had he gone? And why hadn't anyone noticed until it was too late? As the days turned into weeks, the search turned into a quiet kind of grief. The police interviewed his family, but his father's violent past had already been well known. What no one could figure out was how Ryan had managed to slip away so completely. There were no clues, no signs of a struggle. It was like he had vanished into thin air. Eventually, the search slowed. The news outlets stopped reporting on it. The case was marked as open but inactive. The questions still lingered, unanswered. Some people thought Ryan had escaped. He'd run away, found a way out of his father's reach. Others whispered that something darker had happened, that he hadn't been able to escape after all. But the truth is, no one knows. Not really. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that Ryan's story isn't over. I still hear his voice sometimes, late at night, asking if I really could help him. And I wonder, did I do enough? Could I have saved him from the life he was trapped in? Or was there nothing I could have done at all? Ryan vanished without a trace, and no one can explain it. All we have left are the unanswered questions, the ones that haunt us long after the search ends.